Guys, obviously, as we said last time I saw you was Gamescom, quite a while ago. Can you give us a sort of overview about what's been happening since then to get us up to this point?
Well, development, we were roughly pre-alpha at that point. We're like almost at alpha.
Yeah.
And, we've been working on the game. So I can't remember what mission we showed you back then. It was probably the Barrister Arnold Timpsch stuff. But what we showed today was an actual mission from the game. It was about a third of the way through the game.
And obviously one of the big things is the trailer's come out and is done phenomenally well, good feedback and everything like that. Just can we sort of talk about the trailer for a second, that you're obviously having to get this just right to show people what you would expect to see in the game?
Yes, it's the shortest pitch as we can do, right? The idea is that as people watch that video, they get the full idea of what you do in the game and who you are and why you're doing it. And I think the trailer does a pretty good job at doing that.
And with what we saw today, you're talking about, can we just sort of talk the general structure of the game as far as we understand it? You will go to each mission, and within that area you'll have various optional missions to do along with the main part. Is that how the whole thing works? Because you obviously mentioned in the presentation this isn't open world, it's been reported wrong. Can you sort of let us know exactly what we're in for?
Yeah, so for most of the missions, you leave your home base, which is an abandoned pub on the river, and you get in a boat with the boatman and you ride down the river, and you get out at the mission location. And in the case of the mission we showed today and that we're demoing right now for people, it's a bathhouse called the Golden Cat. And so leading up to that from where you dock, getting out on the river, that's where the mission starts. And there are a couple of city blocks before that with side content and optional ways into the Golden Cat area. And then you eventually, one way or the other, after taking the path you take, stealth, combat, whatever, you end up at the Golden Cat. And even within there are 8 ways into the building, and you can possess a fish and swim through the water, or like charge in the front door, go across the rooftops, open some of the windows and climb in. That's the nature of the game, but it is a linear series of missions. It's just that within each mission, you have a wide range of pathways and a wide range of powers, and you can play very surgically and or slaughter everyone. You can use stealth or combat. It's non-linear in that sense.
And it's a steampunk environment, steampunk setting. How are the supernatural powers? How are the supernatural element explained within this world?
So there is a supernatural being in this world called the Outsider, and he represents the god and the devil rolled into one being, basically. And occasionally he chooses a particular person and somebody that he deems will be pivotal to the history, and he gives you his some powers, and not always the same powers that he gives to everybody, but he gives you a set of access to powers actually, and then he disseminates runes in the world for you to find. And as you find those runes, then you can spend them on the powers that you want to buy. So there's this sort of economy, which is like, some powers cost more runes than some others. And then by the end of the game, you might have only half of the powers, but then you have to choose which one you want. So you have to play twice if you want to see all of them.
And was this the guy we saw in the trailer, or was alluded to in the trailer? Because you mentioned that through your actions the world changes, but we got the sort of feeling in that trailer that you feel more like a puppet, almost like this guy's obviously got ideas for you. So how do you decide whether you're more an agent for, be it good or evil, or that you're being more manipulated through what you do in the world?
The Outsider is more of like a neutral, amoral entity. He does not send you on missions or puppet you or whatever. You encounter him a few times through the course of the game. A couple of times you actually visit him in his realm, the Void, and numerous times you find shrines in the world where people have like carved runes to him, and he visits you there. And the way the world works is like you can often visit the shrine before or after your mission, or on the way, or skip it. And so his reactions to you are all dynamic in terms of, have you gone to the target yet, or are you on your way back from the target? Did you slaughter the target, or did you find an alternate story way to spare the target's life and eliminate them in a sense where you've neutralized them in the world. He comments on all that, and he's not the corrupter figure or the manipulator figure. He's just like a non-judgmental, amoral character, and if anything, he has a slightly cautionary tone to his voice. Like Raph said, you're pivotal to history, so he's shown up to you and has offered you power, and that power could completely corrupt you, or you could manage it somehow.
And you mentioned it's all about player choice. What the player goes into with this game is entirely up to them. And you said about it's more sort of free form how you decide to play it, but from the presentation, obviously, we saw that the butcher, as you said, or the silent assassin. How do you enforce player option with that, in that they're not just going to stick with one, they'll play it stealth, or they'll play it action hero gung-ho? How do you make sure that to allow players, look, you can go these variety of ways?
Well, if the player really wants to play stealth all along, then he should, and we accept that. In fact, there's achievements for that, like if you manage not to kill anyone or not to trigger any alarm. So it is possible. It is hard, of course. It requires a lot of being very patient about how you play and like really learning how to hide in the best ways. But this is possible, and the same is true the other way. Even though like playing always brutal is difficult because like you spend your resource. So we believe that players will end up on their first playthrough at least like playing some sort of somewhere in between. Like they will take advantage of the stealth when they can because it's really lethal. Like you can like literally as you sneak on people, you can kill them in one attack. And then whenever things go wrong, gods are gonna pour, and then it's time to use powers or to spend some resource like bullets or whatever you have in order to eliminate those targets as well. So it's gonna be a mix, we think.
And you did say players will have almost like a randomized selection of powers come in the end of the game. They're not going to collect them all. Does that also include weapons, or is weapons pretty much standard for across the board for everybody?
Yeah, there are a number of weapons you find and use. It's not that we have a million weapons or anything like that. It's more like we have a small set of assassin's tools, and then you choose which ones to upgrade. And the explorer player will find tons of valuables that they can then convert into gold, to coin, and then you would have to choose. Nobody can have everything, right? That's one of the cornerstones of our philosophy, I think, is you might upgrade the distance on your crossbow, or you might upgrade the bandolier that carries bone charms so you have more of them. So you have, collect valuables and spend those on equipment upgrades, and you can only have, some percentage, even if you're the completest player and you collect all the money. Then there's the powers where, you collect runes through the world and no one can have all the powers. No one can buy and upgrade all the powers. And then you have the bone charms like Raph was talking about during the presentation.
And with the weaponry, steampunk setting, is that more like a stylistic thing, or do you guys have a lot of fun trying to create weaponry that sort of fits in with that environment?
No, I think we take advantage of the technology. The way the creative process happened was very organic. So it was a lot of back and forth between 5-6 people that were the most influential in the creation of the world itself. And sometimes the artists would give us idea because they suddenly come up with some sort of interesting device or whatever, and then we use that, and vice versa. I think sometimes we are the ones who drive the art into going into some direction. So at the end it all came together, I think, this way. Like the spring razor is a good example where initially we wanted something like that was very like mechanical, but at the same time very lethal, and it was really, this took forever to design, like from a visual standpoint. Like the idea we knew from the gameplay standpoint what we kind of wanted, but then like it was hard to imagine like how does it really work. And so our art design, our designers, like on the art side, some of them are very like they come from an industrial design background, so it's always interesting how they design things to like somehow that could exist, like be real in a way. And so like we're pretty happy how the spring razor came up.
I was going to say, how does that include the tall boys as well?
In some ways, yes, because the Tallboy, if you look at the stilts, they are actually inspired from those modern stilts that are curved and from in the back like this. And then, of course, some of it is looks more fancy than you would see those in the streets. And we always laughed in if it's possible, would be possible to walk with those around or not. And probably the answer is not, but they look like it's kind of cool.
Well, wrapping up, we've talked about where you were from Gamescom to now. From now onwards, you mentioned that you're seeing a lot of surprising play styles, like that sort of jump possession thing. Are you going to try and see what else players come up with, the people that are play testing?
Well, games like this, Raph worked on the Arx Fatalis game, Dark Messiah. I worked on the Deus Ex series. Games like this, ideally, they're rewarding to all players, no matter what your style is. But the more you experiment, I think the more rewarding they are. And so we've seen things like, a guard is about to fire an officer of the City Watch is about to fire his pistol, and you stop time exactly at the right moment. So there's a guard frozen in place, and there's a cloud of smoke, and there's a bullet hanging there. And so really quickly, the player gets the idea to possess the guard and walk him around in front of the bullet. So when time resumes, look of shock on his face, he gets shot by his own bullet. And it's not that that's more efficient than just killing the guard, but sometimes it's damn satisfying to do that. And so if you're into that sort of player creativity, we think the game allows you that,
You're possibly going to create a lot of sadistic players out there. Just trying. Well, guys, I think that's all the time we have for. Thank you again very much for talking to us. Look forward to playing.
This killing me won't solve anything.